but today I'm going to share with you about studying in South Korea. So, first things first, what do you think of if you heard the word South Korea? So, some of you might think of the food. Maybe me, I always think of the food of South Korea, the Korean foods. I like them so much. Or maybe some of you think of the K drama that you've been watching lately. So, there are some good K dramas out there. I'm also a big fan of K dramas. Or maybe there are also some of you who are an army, the BTS army. So BTS is getting more and more popular and it draws a lot of attention, not just to BTS, but also to South Korea. So which brings me to share with all of you today about studying in South Korea. But before that, let me share a little bit background of South Korea. So South Korea is located in Asia for sure, and they're located in the Korean Peninsula, and it shares the border with North Korea. And to the west, there's China, and to the east, there's Japan. So they're very close to China, Japan, and also North Korea. And then the capital city of South Korea is Seoul, and it is a mega city because its population is more than 10 million people, while the total population in South Korea is 51.5 million people. So imagine 20% of South Korea's population stays in Seoul. So imagine how crowded that be. That's why they are called the mega city. And then other than that, South Korea is also nicknamed the land of the morning calm because it has a very stunning natural beauty of mountains and clear waters. And South Korea is the home for big international companies and also beautiful sceneries. So if you have seen big companies like Samsung, LG, maybe you own like an LG TV, or maybe you own an LG refrigerator, or even a Samsung phone. Well, they are actually from South Korea. And then Hyundai, the car, or Kia, the car, they're also from South Korea. So a lot of big technology, electronics, vehicles company, they came from South Korea. So, which brings to the topic today about studying in South Korea. So, studying in South Korea is getting more and more popular for international students this day, and this is also due to the internationalization of Korean higher education as a part of the government's plan. So, if you can see there, the number of international students studying in South Korea is keep on increasing every year. And then by 2017, they already have 123,000 of international students studying in South Korea. And around half of that are actually came from China, their neighboring country. And the government, the South Korean government, they set an even higher target to aim of 200,000 international students by 2023. And maybe you're one of them. So what are actually the top universities in Korea? So this is according to Times Higher Education website. So this is their 2022 data, and you can see that these are like the top 10 best South Korean universities. And just like China, they have the C9 League, right? Or in the US, they have the Ivy League. In South Korea, there is the Sky University. So the Sky University is the elite group of the most prestigious university in South Korea, and it consists of Seoul National University, Yonsei University, and Korea University. So what you can study in South Korea, you can actually study so many things. There are wide variety of programs that you can study in South Korea. So you can study in the short-term programs like exchange student or joining the summer or winter program, or you can also study Korean language courses, which will last for about 10 to 40 weeks, where you'll be studying the language and also immersed in Korean culture. And other than that, you can also study degree programs. So bachelor's, master's, PhD, they're available for international students as well. Obviously, most of the programs will be delivered in Korean, but right now, due to the internationalization program that the universities in Korea have, more and more universities in South Korea also offer English taught bachelor's program for international students, which means if you're not fluent in Korean language, then you can still apply for the English taught degree programs offered at these universities. So based on our research, we found that there are about 77 universities that offer English top programs, 69 that offer master's program, and 61 that offer English top programs. So there's quite an option here. Of course, it's quite a wide options for all of you to choose. And then if you want to study in Korean, definitely you can, but you need to also provide a TOPIK certificate. So just like China have HSK or English, they have IELTS or TOEFL. In Korea, they have TOPIK, and it's the fluency certificate, and it's the exam, like Korean language exam that you have to take. And upon completing the exam, you will get the certificate, and you can use this certificate to apply for Korean taught programs at any universities in South Korea. So for the English taught programs, I'm going to give you an example so you know what you can expect, because maybe the number of choices are not that much compared to the Korean taught programs. But for the English taught programs, one example is at Salisbury University, and you can find this as well on Global Admissions website. So for Salisbury University in South Korea, they have several programs offered in English, and all the courses will be delivered in English. So if you don't know any Korean language at all, that's not going to be a problem. So they can offer bachelor's in business administration, master's in MBA, MSc in data analytics, financial technology, management and technology, marketing and analytics, technology innovation and entrepreneurship. And for those who are looking into PhD degree, Salisbury University also have the PhD in global management, and all these courses are delivered fully in English. So if you don't have TOPIK, or if you don't know Korean language, that's not going to be an issue. You can still apply for this program, and you can still get the degree from Salisbury University. So what are actually the requirements or the documents that you need to apply to South Korea? So this is just a general information of the documents that you need to apply to South Korean universities, but there might be some additional documents required depending on the university requirements. So as a start, definitely you will need your passport, your photo, and then you need your graduation diploma, your transcripts, the personal statement, and then you need your English certificate, like TOEFL or IELTS if you're applying for English taught programs. And also you need your TOPIK certificate if you're applying for Korean taught programs. Bank statement, recommendation letters are often needed for degree programs application, be it bachelor's, master's, or PhD. And usually there will be other documents that you need to complete as well as requested by the university. So it depends on what the university is asking. So you might have to prepare that as well. So for the application period and intakes, good news is Korean universities, they have two intakes every year. So they have the spring semester and they have the fall semester. So the spring semester will last from March to June. Meanwhile, the fall semester will last from September to December. So you can apply for any of these intakes every year. So for degree programs, it will be offered in both intakes as well. So you can start in spring or fall. And then for the application period, this is also just a rough estimation because different universities in Korea, they have different application period as well. So you have to make sure of that. You have to really pay attention on the application period. But roughly, if you want to apply for spring semester intake, then the application period will be from September to November the previous year. Or if you're applying for fall semester intake, then the application period is around February to June. So you have to really pay attention to the application period because like I mentioned, different universities have different application timeline. So make sure of that and make sure not to miss the application deadline. So what are the prospects for international students in South Korea? So in South Korea, international students also have the opportunity to do a part-time jobs. So you can have up to 20 hours per week to do part-time jobs while on a student visa. And also after graduation, I think this is fairly important because a lot of international students, they want to have the opportunity to work in that country after graduation. Maybe you love staying in Korea so much, you want to stay and work in Korea and live there. So that's actually an option as well in South Korea because after graduation, you can actually apply for a D10 visa. So it's a job seeker visa, which will give you 6 months to stay in Korea and find a job. Or you can also use this job seeker visa to stay in Korea and do your internship as well. So some of the reason why you should be studying in South Korea, the first reason is the strong government support. So there are numerous scholarships for international students, and as a part of the internationalization program, a lot more universities in Korea have English taught programs now. So I'm going to cover about the scholarships at the end of the presentation because Korean government scholarship, they are actually pretty generous and they give a lot of support for international students. And then Korea is also strong for their academic excellence. There are 433 universities and colleges that offer a variety of degrees, and they are at the top of the OECD country with education competitiveness. And in Korea, the living and tuition fees are relatively affordable. So on average, the tuition fee is about 5,500 US dollar per year. Yes, it depends on the university tuition fee, but it's quite affordable compared to other destinations. And also you can be exposed to their rich and colorful culture. I mean, if you love K-pops or K-drama or Korean food, then it's time to go to South Korea and also experience it yourself. So Korea also have high level of life satisfaction. Seoul itself is the top 10 best cities for international students in 2018, and they have comfortable transportation system and infrastructure, and also low crime rate and high safety in the country. Last but not least, Korea is a country with a high emphasis in technology. So they have major investment in R&D and ICT, and it's a home for a lot of big technology and electronic companies as well. So how much does it actually cost to study in Korea? So the tuition fee, it depends on the program and it depends on the university because different university might charge different tuition fee. But roughly, on average, is about 5,500 US dollar per year. And you can also check the table here to get more detailed information of how much the tuition fee is for the programs in South Korea. And then for the living expenses in South Korea, it is actually not much of a difference if we compare that to China. So for dormitories, it's about 360 to 1,700 US dollar per semester. Depends on your room type and also the other facilities. And usually it depends on the city where you're staying as well, because some cities have higher living standard. And then for the food, you should expect to spend about 300 to 400 US dollar per month. And then for transportation, you can also take bus or subway, and additional expenses might occur while you are staying in South Korea. So last part is about the scholarship. So the most expensive scholarship is called the KGS, or the Korean Government Scholarship. So good news for everybody who's looking into fully funded scholarship. KGS, or Korean Government Scholarship, is a fully funded government scholarship. So like I mentioned early in this presentation, that Korean government, they give very strong support for international students because they want to boost the number of international students coming to South Korea for studying. That's why they are giving the Korean government scholarships for excellent international students. So for this scholarship, it is available for students who are applying for undergraduate programs and also for graduate programs. For undergraduate programs, roughly the quota is about 170 students. And for graduate programs, it is 800 students. So if you're applying for master's or PhD, this is something that you might want to consider. And then the scheme of this scholarship is that you have to study Korean language for 1 year. And then after that, you can proceed to continue your degree program studies. And in terms of the nationality, you must be an international student, so non-Korean nationals. And then they have an age requirement as well. For undergraduate, it is under 25. For graduate programs, it is under 40 years old. And make sure that if you're applying for undergraduate programs, you have graduated from high school or about to graduate from high school. And then for graduate programs, you need to have either bachelor's or master's degree. It depends on the programs you're applying for. So for undergraduate and graduate programs, for this scholarship, there is only one intake for the scholarship itself. So for undergraduate, it is going to be for the spring intake, and therefore the application starts from October. And if you're applying for graduate programs, the program will be for the fall intake, and therefore the application will be around February to March. And if you want other type of scholarships, there are other type of scholarships as well that might be a little bit less competitive compared to KGS, because KGS is a fully funded scholarship. Obviously, the competition will be very fierce, but there are other type of scholarships that you can consider as well. For example, the scholarship program for self-financed undergraduate students, and you can get stipend for 12 months, and then the quota is 200 students, so it's quite a lot of students. And then there are also scholarship for short-term programs. So if you're into doing exchange program, or also you are from ASEAN countries, from Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, and other ASEAN countries. And if you want to do science and engineering programs, you can also apply for scholarship for ASEAN countries, science and engineering students, where they give scholarship to 120 students from 10 ASEAN countries majoring in science and engineering, and it's also a fully funded scholarship. So yeah, I think that's the end of my presentation, almost the end of my presentation, because I forget the final part. So the final part is for me to share about how to apply. So you can have the whole idea of how the application process works for South Korean university. But roughly, you will need to choose a program, of course, and then you can apply online. You can also do it on Global Admissions website, complete the application process, and then once it's submitted, the university will need time to review your documents, and often there will be interview or exam held by the Korean university. And if you're accepted, you can receive your acceptance letter and payment notice. So once you have confirmed the payment, the university will process your visa form, and you can apply for the visa at the Korean embassy and fly and study in South Korea. So South Korea right now, during this COVID-19, they're actually open for international students. So if you get your acceptance letter from South Korean University and your visa form, you can actually apply for your student visa at the Korean embassy and fly to South Korea and study on campus in South Korea. So that's it. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to my presentation. I hope it's enough. And if you have any questions, you can leave the questions here. And then I think we can go for the next part of this session. So for the age limit, I think there is one question about the age limit. So for the age limit, it applies for the scholarship programs in South Korea, but for a university application, it depends on the university requirements. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it on the Q&A bar. And so I can check it after this, and we have to go to the next part of this presentation. Thank you.